Good evening, you're watching The Big Story with Harian Duman. I'm Olivia Quay. Before we bring you today's news, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the Straits Times channel if you haven't already done so.
Hair salons, traditional Chinese medicine halls, and even home bakers have reopened today. As long as there are safe distancing measures in place, there are some of the businesses that have been allowed to resume operations after being closed from April 22nd. Multimedia journalist Renee Poh reported on the situation this morning.
Shops are back in business today following an easing of the circuit breaker measures. These include food outlets selling cakes and desserts for delivery and takeaway, hairdressers offering basic haircuts, and pet supply stores, which were ordered to close on April 22nd as part of a tightening on essential businesses. I'm here in Ang Mo Kio Central, which has several hair salons and bakeries, and as you can see, there's already a long queue for the hair salon right behind me. At Trust Salon Hair Professional, several customers who had made advance bookings were spotted waiting outside.
Okay, I came here today because I last got my hair cut right before the start of the circuit breaker, so my hair got really messy. Yeah, so I really need a haircut now.
政府不要开了，你看长不长啊？一个多月。
The hair salon had over 40 bookings for the day and also received inquiries from walk-in customers.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to make an appointment because at least we don't have to come down, and have a crowd outside, and then you have to wait and expose yourself.
Over at the Pine Garden Bakery, cake lovers were pleased to get their fix of sweet treats once again.
Yeah, just to buy the cake because my wife says that she have not been eating cake for quite some time because it's been closing for a while. She saw in Facebook that it looked nice, so came all the way here to buy it.
每次都是来光顾，所以那天来你们讲今天可以因为想要吃的东西可以买到，很开心，因为比较喜欢你们的口味。
One customer was particularly happy with her purchase.
A belated Mother's Day cake and some bread. So we are glad that they're open today.
Pet owners also turned up at Pet Lovers Centre to stock up on supplies.
I can't wait to buy this medication for my pets. So I tried to explore buying online, but then I think the delivery lead time is too long for my pet to wait.
I'm getting my cat's food. Yes, there's a brand. Yeah, especially the snacks here.
Because of the sudden announcement of the closure, Pet Lovers Centre said a surge in online orders led them to prioritise urgent deliveries.
We have received feedback since this morning when the stores open at 10. Most of the stores have queues outside, and I think pet parents are anxiously waiting to get their hands on some of the urgent supplies that their fur kids need.
Similarly, the Pine Garden Bakery had to manage thousands of cancelled orders by customers. The preparation for reopening for the chain's 6 outlets was equally hectic.
We had to reproduce all the 6 outlets' products and cakes within a day, and we started past midnight. So the guys are running technically by now more than 12 hours or so to try and replace all the stock delivered to all the outlets.
The businesses also took care to put in place safety measures for customers and staff. Trust Salon Hair Professional had its premises disinfected at 9:30 a.m., an hour and a half before opening. Owner Kenneth Tan says all customers have to undergo the safe entry check-in process and temperature taking.
For our staff, we will also take the temperature twice a day, and we will use those one-time disposable cutting tape and apron also. And we will sanitize the scissors and apron towel. And after each customer left the salon, we will disinfect the chair also.
Safe distancing measures were also put in place at the Pine Garden Bakery and Pet Lovers Centre.
We have to manage entry into the shop, whereby number of customers going in there to transact and choose their products, while we have another team to help them pack and let them hold in boxes while waiting for payment.
They do declaration of health and travel history. We do provide hand sanitizers as well for the customers and staff to make sure that their cans are kept hygienic at all times. For those surfaces that has high human contact, we also sanitize them more frequently now.
The first day of reopening seems to be going smoothly for these businesses so far, though they have had to adjust to new restrictions. Some shops have also chosen to remain closed. In the meantime, safe distancing and contact tracing looks set to be the new normal even beyond the circuit breaker.
Renee joins us live now to share more. Renee, tell us more about what you saw on the ground. Your video showed people queuing up. Was there already a line before the shops opened?
Yeah, so I was actually in the Ang Mo Kio area this morning. I visited 3 businesses, Pine Garden Bakery, Trust Hair Salon, as well as Pet Lover Centre. So we got to Pine Garden Bakery as early as 8:30 a.m. and even at that early hour, there were quite a few customers already shopping for their baked goods like breads and cakes. And well, the queue you saw in the video was at lunchtime actually, mostly outside the hair salons. So I think a lot of the customers were men who were deprived of haircuts during this circuit breaker period as well. And Pet Lover Centre, they had no queue when we visited, surprisingly, but then their spokesperson told us that most of the stores had queues on site when they opened at 10 a.m. So, and for the reopening, these shops, they also put in place the necessary safety precautions before they could reopen. So, for example, we had to check in with the safe entry system at Pet Lover Centre as well as the hair salon. And there was also temperature taking, hand sanitizers were provided to customers, things like this. And generally, we also observe people observing this 1 meter safe distancing rule, whether they are queuing outside to buy their purchases or whether they are inside the salon cutting their hair. Yeah, and of course, everyone has to wear masks now. Yeah.
Well, Renee, what were some of the reactions to this easing of the tightened measures from both business owners and customers? I mean, judging by the queues, both sides seem to be really anticipating the reopening of some of these businesses today.
Yeah, I think for customers, they are mostly quite relieved and happy that they can finally get their hair cut after looking quite unkempt for a few weeks, especially the guys, and or buy their favorite cakes. Well, I spoke to one lady who was actually buying her belated Mother's Day cake, and there was one couple who had actually traveled all the way from Hougang to Pine Garden in Ang Mo Kio because the wife felt quite deprived of her cake lah. And one customer at Pet Lovers, he was also quite desperate to buy medication for his dog because his dog had a ear infection. Yeah, so I think for them, I think they're mostly quite relieved that they can actually get their hands on what they need once again. And for the business owners, I think maybe it was quite stressful for them, more stressful because they had to comply with the safety regulations before they could reopen. So for Pine Garden, the managing director, he described it as a nightmare because they actually had to prep all the products and the cakes for reopening within a single day because they had stopped production before. And they have also had to ramp up their delivery because they have had a surge in new orders as well. But I guess, even though they have extra maybe operating costs, even like say for if they hire like a disinfecting service or they have to provide stuff like hand sanitizers to customers, I think for them it's also an opportunity to slowly resume like the regular programming and continue serving their customers as well.
Right. Now, Renee, as you mentioned earlier on as well, and you were describing it, is it really then back to business for the shop owners that you spoke to? Because I think in your video, there was this part where the Trust Salon, he mentioned about having a one-time kind of a cutting kit as well as aprons.
Yeah, so I think for F&B businesses like Pine Garden, I think they've managed to tide through pretty well. Even when they stopped selling cakes, the managing director told me that they managed to transition to selling other products like turnip cake, glutinous rice, things that people can eat for breakfast because people will still need to eat things. And then now that they can start selling cakes again, I think business will continue to pick up even more for them. I think pet lovers also probably they will do fine as well because I mean they're like the animal equivalent of our NTUC supermarkets. So for pet owners, if they really need to buy like pet food or other stuff like medication for their pets, they would still need to shop in store or like opt for an online delivery. But I think like what you mentioned for businesses like hair salons, maybe it might not be as back to business for them. It might not be as simple because their services are still limited to, say, providing haircuts like cut, wash and blow. And so because customers can't spend too long in the store, he said customers maximum like 1 hour in the store. So so obviously they can't do like other more high-end services like hair treatment or dye their hair. So I think maybe they might face greater challenges in paying off their rental or paying the salaries of their staff. But I mean, I think resuming business is still better than nothing lah. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Renee. That was our colleague, multimedia journalist Renee Poh, speaking about the first day of the resumption of some businesses.
The Health Ministry has confirmed 884 new COVID-19 cases as of noon today. 3 of the new cases are Singaporeans and permanent residents. Migrant workers living in dormitories continue to form the bulk of the remaining cases.
The full breakdown of the new cases will be released later today. Singapore now has a total of 24,671 cases.
In other news, Changi Airport will suspend operations at Terminal 4 from this Saturday, May 16th. If you recall, services at Terminal 2 were already suspended earlier this month. Airlines currently based in T4 will operate out of Terminals 1 or 3 instead. The stores and restaurants in T4 will close, and the shuttle bus service connecting to T3 will also be temporarily suspended.
Meanwhile, the Singapore Armed Forces suspended all large-scale overseas exercises, including its biggest one, Exercise Wallaby, held in Queensland, Australia. In a statement today, the Ministry of Defence said that when conditions improve, Singapore may continue with smaller-scale training activities in Australia. This will be done in full compliance with their safety requirements to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Applications to use digital check-in system Safe Entry surged over the weekend as businesses prepared to reopen today. The Smart Nation and Digital Government Office said it received applications for 29,000 additional premises. This brings the total number of premises with Safe Entry to 45,000.
And efforts to rehouse foreign workers are being stepped up with private property and parts of the Turf Club among the new designated housing facilities. The Singapore Land Authority said yesterday that the former Chancery Court in Dunyan Road has been refurbished to house healthy foreign workers in essential services. Up to 1,200 workers can stay there, and some have already moved in.
Thanks, Arianto and Olivia. Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte announced that the government had begun a planned easing of the lockdown, but restrictions will remain in Metro Manila as well as Cebu City and Laguna Province, which are still seeing a high concentration of infections. Restrictions for the rest of the Philippines are set to ease after May 15. In the US, President Donald Trump abruptly ended his coronavirus press briefing after getting into a spat with a reporter.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world. And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay, anybody else? Please, go ahead in the back, please.
I have two questions.
No, it's okay.
But
We'll
you
go over
pointed
here.
to me. I have two questions, Mr.
Next,
President.
next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the
wanted
young
to,
lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish.
Okay.
But can I ask you a
Ladies and
question,
gentlemen,
please?
thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
A potential second wave of infections is emerging in several countries that have eased their lockdowns, putting governments on tenterhooks as they chart plans to reopen their economies. China saw a new cluster of cases in Wuhan over the weekend. 5 new cases were reported yesterday. The city's 76-day lockdown was lifted a month ago. A similar situation was seen in the northeastern city of Shulan, near the North Korean border. New cases are also on the rise in Germany. There were 697 cases in the 24 hours through this morning, the first increase in 4 days. That's all for our global updates. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Dylan. There's also a growing fear of a second wave of infections in South Korea, despite it being one of the countries that had earned global praise for its response to COVID-19.
The new outbreak stems from a new cluster traced to 5 bars and clubs in Seoul's nightlife district of Itaewon. The number of cases linked to this cluster was at 101 earlier today.
Some of these clubs are frequented by gay customers who may not want to be identified. So let's bring in South Korea correspondent Chang May Choon in on this discussion. May Choon, South Korea's success in flattening the curve has been largely due to its testing, from screening clinics all over the country to its innovative drive-through testing booths. So this come forward and get tested strategy has relied on people's willingness to get tested, but do you think it will work in this particular instance?
Okay, this time we know that the center of the outbreak is 5 pubs and clubs in Itaewon, and the authorities have managed to get a list of the customers who went to the clubs over the long weekend, which was April 30th to May 5th. So in this list, there are 5,000 people, and the authorities have not been able to contact about 3,000 of them. Worried that people might not want to come forward because, of sensitive. They don't want people to know that they went to these clubs. The authorities started to promise that they will allow anonymous testing. So they encouraged people to come forward, and then they told them that your identities will not be compromised. And they've also tried to tell people that if you do not go for testing and in the end you get found out, you can be fined. So with these 2 measures in place, today the number of people going forward for testing have increased. So Mayor in a briefing this morning said that the number of people who went for testing has doubled. And I'm seeing queues at testing centers, so that means people are more willing to come forward to go for testing now. And it's not just the clubs. People who went to the clubs could have gone to eat at restaurants in Itaewon area. So they're asking those people to go for testing as well. And every day we get messages from the central government, sent directly to our mobile phones, telling everyone, urging everyone to go for testing. So I think that will help.
Right. May Choon, how would you then describe the new outbreak? Is it under control, or could it lead to another wave of infections in South Korea? Now, we understand there are 8 military personnel among the new cases, as well as a super spreader nicknamed Yongin 66.
Yongin 66 was the first case to be discovered, and after that the number of cases started going up. So as of now we have got 101 cases. If you compare this to the previous outbreak, which was linked to the Shincheonji Church, the numbers are a lot smaller. Shincheonji, the total number of members that actually went for testing is over 200,000. And then that, from that you see the figures, the number of infections so far is 10,000. But here, what we have is the authorities managed to get a list of people. The list is, wait, let me see, it's only about 10,000. So it's a fraction of the previous one. So the the number of people exposed is not so high, and then the rate of infection, how fast number of cases are emerging, seems to be quite low this time around. So while they are worried that this will lead to a new wave, the numbers seem small at the moment, and we have to wait and see because the incubation period of the virus is about 14 days.
Right. Well, in response to this new outbreak, Seoul has shut clubs and bars again. We understand museums and libraries are still open though. And professional sports have also restarted and spectators are actually allowed in the stadiums. Are these and other venues that have reopened slated to close one more?
We're not sure now, but the government has said several times that if the number of cases suddenly go up, or if there's a second wave, they will revert back to the strict social distancing measures in the past 2 months. So there is a chance that these public places can be closed once again, but they've also highlighted the fact that in the open spaces, well-ventilated places, these are less likely to be like a hotspot, a breeding ground for the virus, compared to a place that is very crowded, poor ventilation. So when you look at the clubs in Itaewon, those are actually hotbeds, because a lot of them are underground. There are no windows, and then people let their guard down when they go clubbing. So it's easy for the virus to spread.
Mention now, barring another extension, Singapore's circuit breaker will be in place until June 1st. And even then, Minister Lawrence Wong said that restrictions will be lifted gradually. So as the June 1st deadline draws nearer, what lessons can be gleaned from the situation in South Korea?
Okay, in South Korea, it was the number of cases started, the new cluster emerged after a long weekend. The long weekend, April 30th to May 5th, had 3 public holidays. So people let their guard down. They became complacent. And then as the numbers started going down, the number of new cases started going down, people started to feel like, we can go back, our life can go back to normal, right? So as they were waiting for the government to ease social distancing, a lot of them decided to go traveling. A lot of them decided to go, it's time to go out. We can have fun right now. They wear masks, no doubt, but you will let your guard down. Like when you go to restaurants, you don't spray hand sanitizers anymore. Or when you go clubbing, you just remove your mask, you drink, you party, you just have fun. So I think the lesson that we learned from South Korea this time around is do not be complacent and beware of the holiday mood. Like when you think that you'll be fine, the virus comes back to bite you again.
Right. Well, fantastic note to end on. Thank you very much, May Choon. Stay safe in Seoul. We've been speaking to the Straits Times South Korea correspondent Chang May Choon on the growing fear of a possible second wave of COVID-19 infections in the country. For now, it's back to Dylan for what's also in the news.
Singapore telco M1 reported fibre broadband service disruptions this morning. The disruptions are believed to have begun around 4:27 a.m. That's according to the Down Detector website, which logs internet outages. In a Facebook post at 8 a.m, M1 said that customers in the western, central and eastern parts of Singapore may be affected and were working hard to resolve the issue. Then an update at 11 a.m. stated that only a specific group is still experiencing disruptions, with most customers able to connect. In Malaysia, Perikatan Nasional secured control of Kedah, with the defections of 2 Parti Keadilan Rakyat assemblymen who quit their parties to support Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin. This means that Kedah Chief Minister Mukhriz Mahathir, who's Mahathir Mohamad's son, no longer has the majority in the 36-strong state legislature. And something for football fans to cheer about, the English Premier League could actually complete the current season, as the UK government set out a roadmap that could see the return of elite sports from June 1st. Under Project Restart, sporting events will be allowed to take place behind closed doors for broadcast, while avoiding the risk of large-scale social contact. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said he believes the return of sport on TV would provide a much-needed boost to national morale. I'm Dylan Ang, back to you in the studio.
Well, those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below.
Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman with Olivia Quay. Join us tomorrow for more stories on A Big Story.